Now, in answering the brother's question, where was Esau originally living? Where was his habitation? Let's get Genesis the 36th chapter. Let's get Genesis 36:1.
Genesis 36:1. Now these are the generations of Esau, who was Edom. Esau took his wives of the daughters of Canaan.
Read the first verse again for me.
Now these are the generations of Esau, who is Edom.
Esau is Edom. Okay? Edom means red. His name was turned to Edom when he sold his birthright for some lentil or red pottage. It says red pottage in Genesis the 25th chapter because there was red or raw meat within the stew. So the food was not even done. And he said, feed me, I pray thee, with that same red pottage. So that's why his name was called Edom. And that also brings to the table the eating of blood, the drinking of blood, and the eating of rare food. In the scriptures, the children of Israel knew to burn their food until all the blood was out of it. That's in the law. Even though God's people don't have the law today, when we cook, we naturally cook all the blood out of the food because in the spirit, we follow that law. All right? So his name was called Edom, which means red. So not only is his outer appearance red, he liked rare food. He liked to hunt. He liked blood. See, Jacob got the promise. When you read in Genesis the 27th chapter, Jacob, or Israel, got the promise, or the blessings, from his father, Isaac. And Esau was crying, was like, is there anything you can give me? He said, yeah, I'll give you something. I'm going to give you something. You're going to be great. But you're going to live by the sword. You're going to live by the sword. That means you're going to get power by war, by killing, by weaponry. Okay? So that's why you can't beat this man when it comes to war. Because his physical might is not as strong as the other nations, but his technology he was blessed with by the Father. You can't mess with his weaponry. Where did Esau dwell? Let's go to the 8th verse. Read.
Thus dwelt Esau in Mount Seir.
Where did he dwell? In Mount Seir. So he was in the mountains next to Israel. Read.
Esau is Edom.
Esau is Edom. Go ahead.
And these are the generations of Esau, the father of the Edomites, in Mount Seir.
So he's the father of the Edomites. So that's their name. Now you would have the tribes, you would have Esau try to hide himself by calling them different European names. But they're from the seed of Edom, if you want to name them according to the Bible. Because originally, that whole land of Europe was inhabited by the so-called Asians before they was pushed further east. All right, they was pushed further east when the Greeks came out of the mountains and started battling the Asians that was down there, the Mongols and all that was down there, which were the dark-skinned Asians. So they originally dwelt in the mountains. That's where they dwelt. And you may see cavemen or Neanderthal, and you see the college spinning of saying that this happened 100 billion years ago. The reason why they had to spin it is because the relics they're finding in these mountains prove that people were living up in the mountains. And they were living sort of primitive. But it wasn't 100 million years ago. It's telling you right here in the Bible that they was in the mountains. And Mount Seir, later in the Caucasus Mountains of Georgia, Russia. We're talking about the full-blooded Edomites. Okay? And these rich families, which are Edomites, they make sure that they don't mix their blood with any other nation, even if they have to deal with incest. They try to keep their pure Greek blood, or they keep their Greek blood pure, so to speak. Even if they have to breed within their own families, they try to stop from mixing with the layman or the Goyim. Okay? So you have some Edomites, or whom you may perceive Edomites, who have mixed with Israel, who may look just like Israel, or can look just like Esau. So we have to be careful to judge on the appearance. On the other hand, you have some full-blooded Edomites who have never mixed their blood, who can trace their blood right back to Alexander the Greek and all of his cronies. These are the rich families who make sure they keep their blood pure, which are Edomites. So still, you're going to have some Israel that look just like Esau. So we must be careful talking down to people whom we perceive are Edomites. That's another reason we try to stay away from the topic. Because you can't judge everyone because they look a certain way. You're going to have some brothers who think they're Israelites. And lo and behold, it may come out that they're Esau. So we have to be careful. More on Esau. Let's go to the book of Obadiah. This is a small book that gives us the full understanding of the mindset of the full-blooded Edomite. The book of Obadiah. Let's read that.
The vision of Obadiah. Thus saith the Lord Most High, concerning Edom. We have heard a rumor from the Lord, an ambassador is sent among the heathen. Arise ye, and let us rise up against her in battle.
It says, this is the prophecy concerning Edom. We've heard a rumor from the Lord, and an ambassador is sent among the heathen. Arise ye, and let us rise up against her in battle. That happened in 1948 when the Egyptian ambassador, Governor Nasser, stood up and said, well, hold up. How can the Israelites leave dark and come back another race? So they started battling against them in the Middle East. And that war have culminated to the war you see today. It was like, well, hold up. How can y'all stake a claim in the land? We have as much right to the land as you. You're not the people. Read.
Verse 2. Behold, I have made thee small among the heathen. Thou art greatly despised.
So Esau was made small among all the heathen or nations. They may call other nations minority, but really Esau is the minority. You don't see Israelites or other tribes or other nations taking fertility pills like that. Okay, they try to promote abstinence to the other nations. They're trying to promote birth control to the other nations to stop their growth, afraid that the other nations might outgrow them. And while they're telling you not to have children, they're doing what? Going to these banks and getting sperm and getting fertility implants and all types of medication to try to have kids. The Lord tell you that out of all the nations, they are the smallest. And out of all the nations, they are greatly despised. Which means, based on their track record, not their color, based on their track record, they have developed a lot of enemies. Based on the track record, not the color. Because you're not going to go against a nation because they're a certain color. But if they have a history of poisoning people, killing people, taking their land, and enslaving people, unjust war, doing all types of evil things, then you're going to say, well, hold up, man, I got a problem because everywhere you go, you do harm. You do harm. So they can't escape the track record. That's why it says, thou art greatly despised. Read.
Verse 3. The pride of thine heart hath deceived thee, thou that dwellest in the clefts of the rock.
And the Most High says, the pride of thine heart have deceived thee, thou that dwellest in the clefts of the rocks. You were just up in the mountains and now you're proud. That's what the Lord is saying. And your pride have deceived thee, because why? You wouldn't have power if Israel didn't fall as a nation.